The dashboard crushes my ribs again, and Marcus's smug voice echoes in my mind one last time. Thanks for the brilliant work, Sarah. Too bad you'll never see a penny from it. Then darkness, then light. The acrid smell of burnt coffee hits my nostrils, and I jolt upright in my cubicle. My heart hammers against my chest as I stare at the familiar gray partition walls of Nexus Technologies. The same motivational poster hangs crooked on the wall, a kitten dangling from a branch with "Hang in there" printed beneath it. I died 6 months in the future watching Marcus steal my revolutionary AI algorithm and sell it for $50 million. Now I'm back. I'm reborn. My hands tremble as I touch the keyboard, the plastic keys feeling impossibly real under my fingertips. This isn't a dream. The timestamp on my computer screen reads March 15th, 2024. I have exactly 180 days before Marcus discovers my breakthrough algorithm and claims it as his own. 180 days before he murders my future. But this time, I know what's coming. Sarah, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Jessica, my cubicle neighbor, peers over the partition with genuine concern. Her voice sounds exactly as I remember, warm, caring, completely unaware that in 6 months she'll attend my funeral. I force a smile and steady my trembling hands. Just had a weird déjà vu moment. I'm fine. The lie tastes bitter on my tongue, but I swallow it. I can't afford to panic now. I scan the office, cataloging every detail with new eyes. Marcus's corner office gleams behind floor-to-ceiling glass walls, his leather chair turned toward the window as he gestures animatedly during a phone call. His confident laughter booms across the open floor plan, the same laugh that will ring in my ears as he signs the deal that destroys my life. I open my laptop and navigate to the folder containing my early AI research. The files are all here, primitive compared to what I'll develop, but the foundation stones of something revolutionary. My algorithm will eventually process natural language with unprecedented accuracy, learning and adapting in ways that will make current AI look like pocket calculators. In my previous life, I shared everything with Marcus, trusted him, believed his promises about partnership and shared success. The memory makes my stomach churn. This time I'll be smarter. I create a new encrypted folder and begin copying my work. Every keystroke feels deliberate, purposeful. The soft clicking of keys becomes a rhythm of revenge. I'll let Marcus steal my idea again, but this time I'll own every piece of it legally before he even knows what hit him. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. Team meeting, 2 p.m. In that meeting, Marcus will ask each team member to present their current projects. I remember standing up nervously, explaining my early AI concepts while he nodded thoughtfully, his eyes already calculating how to make my brilliance his own. I won't make that mistake again. Instead, I'll give him just enough to hook his interest, but not enough to succeed without me. I'll make myself indispensable while secretly building an impenetrable legal fortress around my intellectual property. The taste of stale office air fills my mouth as I breathe deeply, centering myself. I've been gifted the ultimate weapon, knowledge of the future. Marcus thinks he's the predator, but he's about to discover what it feels like to be prey. My computer screen reflects my determined expression as I begin crafting my plan. Step 1. Establish a shell company. Step 2. File provisional patents. Step 3. Let Marcus think he's winning while I systematically destroy any legal claim he might have to my work. The printer hums to life across the office, and the familiar mechanical sound sends shivers down my spine. Soon, those same printers will be churning out cease and desist letters with Marcus's name on them. I check the clock, 1:45 p.m. 15 minutes until the meeting that sets everything in motion. 15 minutes until I begin the most elaborate and satisfying revenge plot of 2 lifetimes. My fingers hover over the keyboard as I type the first line of what will become my patent application. A novel approach to natural language processing utilizing adaptive neural networks. The words flow like water, each sentence a building block in the fortress that will protect my future. Marcus's laughter echoes across the office again, but this time it doesn't make me flinch. Soon, he'll discover that some prey bite back, and when they do, they draw blood. The conference room smells like stale donuts and desperation. I settle into my usual spot at the long oval table, watching as my colleagues file in one by one. Marcus strides in last, his perfectly pressed suit and confident gait commanding attention. He doesn't know it yet, but he's walking into my trap. "All right, team," Marcus announces, settling into his chair with practiced authority. "Let's hear what everyone's been working on. Sarah, why don't you start us off?" My heart pounds, but I keep my voice steady. This is the moment that changed everything in my previous life. I remember fumbling through my presentation, sharing too much, giving him every detail he needed to steal my work. Not this time. I stand slowly, letting my hands shake just slightly. The perfect performance of nervous brilliance. I've been exploring some interesting patterns in natural language processing. Nothing groundbreaking yet, but I think there might be something there. The texture of the presentation remote feels cold in my palm as I click to my first slide. I've carefully curated this presentation to intrigue without revealing. Each slide contains just enough truth to captivate Marcus while hiding the revolutionary core of my discovery. The current AI models struggle with contextual understanding. I continue, watching Marcus lean forward with interest. But I've noticed some anomalies in the data that suggest we might be approaching the problem wrong. I click to the next slide, showing a simplified version of my algorithm structure. In my previous life, this slide contained the complete breakthrough. Today, it shows only the appetizer. Marcus's eyes light up with that familiar hunger. I can practically see the dollar signs dancing in his pupils. "Interesting approach, Sarah. Have you tested this theory?" "Some preliminary work," I lie smoothly, "but I'd need more resources to really explore it properly." The sound of coffee cups clinking against saucers fills the momentary silence. My colleague David shifts in his chair, the leather squeaking softly. These small sounds anchor me to this moment, this carefully orchestrated performance. "I think you might be onto something significant," Marcus says, his voice taking on that tone I remember so well. The one that used to make me feel valued and heard before I learned it was the sound of a predator sizing up prey. "Why don't you focus all your energy on this project? I'll free you up from your other assignments." Perfect. In my previous life, this moment filled me with gratitude. Now I recognize it for what it really is. Marcus isolating my work so he can monitor and eventually steal it. I nod enthusiastically. That would be amazing. I really think this could be something special. As the meeting progresses, I watch Marcus's expressions carefully. When David presents his cybersecurity project, Marcus nods politely, but his attention drifts. When Jennifer discusses her user interface improvements, he checks his phone. But when the conversation returns to my AI work, his focus sharpens like a laser. After the meeting, Marcus approaches me as I'm gathering my notes. The scent of his expensive cologne, something woody and aggressive, triggers a flash of memory from my previous life. I remember this same smell overwhelming me as he leaned over my shoulder, helping with my code while memorizing every breakthrough. "Sarah, I want you to know how excited I am about your project," he says, placing a hand on my shoulder. The touch makes my skin crawl, but I smile warmly. "I'd like to schedule regular check-ins so I can support your progress." I feel a surge of dark satisfaction. He's taking the bait exactly as I planned. "That sounds wonderful. I really appreciate your mentorship." The word mentorship tastes like poison, but Marcus preens at the flattery. He suggests we meet twice weekly, ostensibly to remove any roadblocks, but really to track my progress so he'll know exactly when to strike. As I walk back to my cubicle, the fluorescent lights buzz overhead like angry insects. My phone vibrates with a text from the lawyer I contacted this morning. "Shell company paperwork filed, patent attorney available tomorrow." I slip into my cubicle and open my laptop, navigating to the secure folder where I've been building my real algorithm. The complete version that will revolutionize natural language processing. The code flows across my screen like poetry, each function a weapon in my arsenal. I begin preparing the sanitized version I'll show Marcus during our check-ins. Just enough progress to keep him interested. Just enough innovation to make him believe he's witnessing something valuable. But never enough to let him succeed without me. My fingers dance across the keyboard as I craft the perfect deception. In my previous life, I was naive enough to believe that brilliance would be rewarded. That hard work and innovation would be recognized and compensated fairly. This life I know better. This life, I'm not just the brilliant scientist. I'm the spider. And Marcus is about to walk straight into my web. The printer across the office whirs to life again, and I smile. Soon, those machines will be working overtime, printing patent approvals, licensing agreements, and legal documents that will turn my stolen dreams into Marcus's worst nightmare. My computer screen reflects my satisfied expression as I save my work. Phase 1 is complete. Marcus is hooked. Phase 2 begins tomorrow with my first patent filing. I can hardly wait to see the look on his face when he discovers that this time the prey has teeth. The patent attorney's office smells like leather and old books, but to me it smells like victory. Miss Chen, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, spreads my documents across her mahogany desk like a general planning a battle. "This is sophisticated work," she says, adjusting her glasses as she reviews my algorithm documentation. "The provisional patents will give you a year to file the complete applications, but based on what I'm seeing here, you should have full protection within 6 months." The thick patent papers feel substantial between my fingers, like armor made of bureaucracy and legal precedent. I sign document after document, each signature another lock on the vault protecting my intellectual property. "Remember," Miss Chen continues, "document everything. Timestamps, communications, any changes or improvements. The more evidence of your original work, the stronger your position." I nod, thinking of the detailed logs I've been keeping. Every email, every conversation with Marcus, every modification to my code, all meticulously recorded and backed up in multiple locations. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus. "Looking forward to our check-in this afternoon. Bring your latest progress." The exclamation point would have excited me in my previous life. Now it just amuses me. I walk back to the office, the spring air carrying the scent of blooming cherry trees. The seasonal fragrance reminds me that time is moving forward, that summer is coming, and with it the investor meeting where Marcus will hang himself with my rope. At my desk, I open the simplified version of my algorithm, the decoy I've prepared for Marcus. It shows genuine progress, real innovation, but carefully edited to ensure he can't succeed without me. Key functions are missing, vital connections obscured, critical variables renamed to meaningless labels. "Sarah!" Marcus's voice booms across the office. "Ready for our meeting?" I gather my materials and follow him to his office. The space reeks of ambition awards covering the walls, expensive furniture arranged to intimidate, windows positioned to backlight him during conversations. In my previous life, this office intimidated me. Now I see it for what it really is, the lair of a predator who's about to become prey. "Show me what you've got," Marcus says, settling behind his desk with that predatory smile I've learned to hate. I connect my laptop to his monitor and begin my performance. I've made significant progress on the contextual understanding problem. Look at these processing improvements. The screen fills with code that looks impressive but is intentionally incomplete. Marcus leans forward, his eyes scanning the functions with barely concealed greed. I can practically see him calculating the potential value. "This is remarkable work, Sarah. How did you approach the semantic analysis?" I launch into a technical explanation that's accurate but deliberately vague about the crucial breakthrough. Marcus nods along, asking probing questions that reveal his limited understanding of the actual algorithms. He's smart enough to recognize value but not smart enough to create it himself. "Have you documented this approach anywhere?" he asks casually, but I catch the sharp interest in his tone. "Oh yes, I keep detailed notes," I lie smoothly, though they're pretty scattered across different files. I should probably organize them better. Marcus's eyes light up. "That's a great idea. Organization is key for complex projects like this. Why don't you consolidate everything into a comprehensive document? I can review it and provide feedback." My heart races with dark pleasure. He's asking me to hand him everything on a silver platter just like last time. But this time, I'll give him exactly what he deserves. "That makes sense," I agree. "I'll put together a complete technical specification." As I'm packing up my laptop, my phone vibrates with a message from Miss Chen. "First provisional patent approved. Congratulations." I keep my expression neutral, but inside, I'm practically glowing. Marcus walks me to the door, his hand on my shoulder again. Sarah, I want you to know how valuable your work is to this company. We're going to make sure you're properly rewarded. The lie rolls off his tongue so smoothly. In my previous life, I believed every word. This time, I just smile and nod. I really appreciate that, Marcus. It means so much to have your support. Back at my cubicle, I begin crafting the comprehensive document Marcus requested. Every page is a masterpiece of selective disclosure, impressive enough to convince him he's seeing something revolutionary, incomplete enough to ensure he'll fail without me. I embed subtle errors in critical sections, use deprecated libraries for key functions, and organize the code in ways that hide the truly innovative elements. To a casual observer, it looks like brilliant work. To someone trying to implement it, it's a beautiful disaster waiting to happen. The sound of the office printer working overtime fills the air as I print multiple copies of my decoy documentation. Each page that emerges feels like another piece of my trap falling into place. I email Marcus the completed document with a note. Here's the comprehensive technical specification you requested. I'm excited to hear your thoughts. Within minutes, he responds, "Excellent work. I'll review this carefully and schedule a follow-up meeting soon." I lean back in my chair, watching the sun set through the office windows. The fading light casts long shadows across the floor, reminding me that darkness is coming for Marcus. He just doesn't know it yet. My computer screen shows 17 pending patent applications, each one a nail in Marcus's coffin. He thinks he's positioning himself to steal my life's work. Instead, he's about to discover that this time, I've already won before the game even begins. The office grows quiet as my colleagues head home, but I stay late, perfecting my trap. Tomorrow, Marcus will start planning his theft in earnest. But unlike my previous life, this time I'll be ready. This time, I'll be waiting. The conference room hums with expensive energy. 20 venture capitalists in $1,000 suits occupy the sleek black chairs around the polished table, their attention focused on Marcus like he's the second coming of Steve Jobs. The scent of fresh flowers from the elaborate centerpiece mixes with cologne and the metallic tang of ambition. I watch from the back corner, officially here as technical support, but really witnessing the performance of a lifetime. Marcus stands at the head of the table, laser pointer in hand, radiating the kind of confidence that only comes from believing you're about to close the deal of the century. "Gentlemen, ladies," Marcus begins, his voice carrying perfectly through the room's acoustics. "What I'm about to show you will revolutionize how we think about artificial intelligence." My heart pounds like a war drum as he clicks to the first slide. It's my work, presented with his name in the corner where mine should be. The algorithm I've spent years developing, the breakthrough that cost me my life, now branded as Marcus Fletcher's revolutionary AI framework. I force myself to remain calm, my phone discreetly recording everything from my position near the wall. Every word, every gesture, every false claim of ownership is being captured in crystal clear audio and video. Traditional AI systems struggle with contextual understanding, Marcus continues, pointing to charts that I created using data I collected. But our new approach fundamentally changes the game. The word makes my stomach turn. There is no our. There's only my work and his theft. The lead investor, a silver-haired woman named Patricia Westbrook, leans forward with interest. "The preliminary results you sent were impressive. Can you walk us through the technical implementation?" This is where Marcus will stumble. He understands the surface level, the marketing speak, but the deep technical details are beyond him. I watch as he launches into an explanation that's technically accurate but lacks the nuanced understanding that comes from actually creating the work. "The semantic processing layer utilizes novel neural pathways," he says, gesturing at a diagram I drew. "Combined with our proprietary learning algorithms, it achieves unprecedented accuracy in natural language understanding." I tremble with barely contained rage as he says, "our proprietary algorithms," without a hint of shame. In my previous life, I was dead by this point. This time, I'm very much alive and taking notes. Mr. Harrison, a younger investor with sharp eyes, raises his hand. "What's your competitive advantage? How do you prevent larger companies from replicating this approach?" Marcus's smile never wavers. "Excellent question. We have comprehensive documentation of our development process, clear intellectual property ownership, and the technical expertise to maintain our edge. The lie is so brazen it takes my breath away. Clear intellectual property ownership. If only he knew that every single patent for this technology is sitting in my name at the USPTO, waiting to destroy his world. Patricia nods approvingly. And what are you looking for in terms of investment? $50 million for a 20% stake, Marcus replies smoothly. That values the company at $250 million, which I believe is conservative given the market potential. My work, my life's achievement. He's selling it for $250 million while I sit in the corner like hired help. The texture of my phone case grows slick with nervous sweat as I continue recording. Marcus fields technical questions with the confidence of someone who truly believes he owns what he's presenting. He's polished, persuasive, completely convincing, and completely doomed. The market applications are virtually limitless, Marcus continues, warming to his favorite topic. Money. Customer service, content creation, legal research, medical diagnostics. This technology will disrupt every industry that relies on language processing. He's not wrong. My algorithm really will revolutionize those fields. But the profits won't be flowing to him. An older investor near the middle of the table speaks up. What's your timeline for commercial deployment? We're ready to begin beta testing immediately, Marcus lies. The system he has access to, my deliberately sabotaged version, would fail spectacularly in any real-world application. Full commercial launch within 6 months. I bite my lip to keep from laughing. 6 months from now, Marcus will be lucky if he's not facing criminal charges. The presentation continues for another 40 minutes. Marcus fields questions about market penetration, scaling challenges, competitive analysis, all topics where his business acumen actually serves him well. He's genuinely good at this part of the job. Unfortunately for him, you can't build a tech empire on stolen foundations. This is exactly the kind of transformative technology we've been looking for, Patricia says as Marcus concludes his presentation. The potential returns are extraordinary. The investors murmur among themselves, and I can feel the excitement in the room building toward a crescendo. Marcus has delivered a masterful performance, selling my work with the passion and expertise of a true believer. If I didn't know better, I might believe him myself. We're prepared to move quickly on this, Patricia continues. Our preliminary offer would be the full $50 million at your requested valuation, with the possibility of additional funding for international expansion. Marcus's face lights up with triumph. That's fantastic. I look forward to working with all of you. As hands are shaken and contact information exchanged, my phone buzzes with a text message that makes my blood sing with anticipation. All patents approved. Cease and desist letters prepared. Ready when you are. Chen. I watch Marcus bask in the glow of his stolen success, accepting congratulations and making plans to change the world with my technology. The sound of champagne corks popping fills the air as someone breaks out celebratory bottles. He has no idea that his world is about to end. I slip out of the conference room unnoticed, the taste of victory already sweet on my tongue. In 12 hours, those same investors will receive cease and desist letters that will turn Marcus's triumph into his destruction. The elevator doors close behind me with a soft chime, carrying me down toward the lobby and toward the most satisfying phone call of my 2 lifetimes. It's time to activate the trap. Rain patters against my apartment windows like impatient fingers drumming on glass. The sound reminds me of the night I died in my previous life, the same steady rhythm that accompanied my final breath as Marcus's betrayal echoed in my mind. But tonight, the rain feels different. Tonight, it sounds like justice. My laptop screen glows in the darkness as I review the final cease and desist letters. Miss Chen has outdone herself. Each document is a legal masterpiece, methodically dismantling any claim Marcus might have to my work. The evidence is overwhelming. Timestamps proving my authorship, patent filings that predate his presentation, documentation that traces every breakthrough back to my personal research. Sarah, Miss Chen's voice crackles through my phone. The letters are ready for delivery. Are you sure you want to proceed tomorrow morning? I watch the rain streak down my windows, each droplet carrying away the last of my hesitation. I'm sure. Send them. The next morning dawns gray and overcast, matching my mood perfectly. I arrive at the office early, the smell of fresh coffee masking the tension building in my chest. Marcus hasn't arrived yet. He's probably still celebrating his impending windfall, completely unaware that his world is about to collapse. I settle into my cubicle and pretend to work while monitoring the clock. At exactly 9 a.m., Miss Chen's courier service will deliver identical packages to each investor from yesterday's meeting. By 9:30, Marcus's phone will start ringing with very uncomfortable questions. At 8:47, Marcus strides through the office doors like a conquering hero. His suit is even more expensive than usual, his smile broader, his confidence radiating from every pore. He makes a point of walking past my cubicle, the scent of his cologne announcing his presence before I even look up. "Morning, Sarah. Beautiful day, isn't it?" I force enthusiasm into my voice. "It really is. How did your presentation go yesterday?" His chest swells with pride. "Exceptionally well. I think we're about to see some very exciting changes around here." The phrase, "we're about to see some very exciting changes," will prove more prophetic than he realizes. At 9:15, my phone buzzes with a text from Miss Chen. "Package is delivered. The storm begins now." I continue typing, watching Marcus through the glass walls of his office. He's on a call, gesturing animatedly as he discusses what I assume are post-investment plans. The confident smile never leaves his face. At 9:32, his phone rings. At 9:35, his smile falters. At 9:38, his face goes white. I watch the transformation with scientific fascination. Marcus the predator becoming Marcus the prey in real time. He hangs up and immediately dials another number, his movements becoming increasingly frantic. By 9:45, he's pacing his office like a caged animal. At 10 o'clock, he storms out of his office and marches straight to my cubicle. The texture of his expensive suit seems less impressive when he's sweating through it. "Sarah," he says, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "I need to speak with you, privately." I save my work with deliberate slowness, letting him stew in his anxiety. "Of course, your office?" The walk to his office feels like a death march. His death march. I settle into the chair across from his desk, watching as he closes the door and draws the blinds. The sound of the blinds snapping shut feels like a coffin lid closing. "There's been a misunderstanding," Marcus begins, his voice strained. "Some people are claiming ownership of the work we presented yesterday." I tilt my head with practiced confusion. "What do you mean?" He leans forward, his cologne now smelling sharp with desperation. "Someone has filed patents on our technology. They're claiming prior art, saying the work belongs to them." Our technology, prior art. He's using legal terms he probably Googled 20 minutes ago. "That's terrible," I say, injecting genuine concern into my voice. "Who would do something like that?" Marcus runs his hands through his perfectly styled hair, destroying the careful arrangement. "I don't know, but I intend to find out. Sarah, I need you to gather all your documentation about the project. Everything. We need to prove our ownership." The word "our" tastes like ash in the air between us. I nod earnestly. "Of course, though I should mention, I did file some preliminary patents on my early research. You know, just to protect the company's interests. I probably should have mentioned it sooner." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. I watch the blood drain from his face as the implications sink in. His mouth opens and closes silently like a fish gasping for air. "You filed patents?" he whispers. "Well, yes. On my personal research from before I joined the company. I wanted to make sure no one could claim it wasn't original work." I pause, letting the knife twist. "The patents were approved last week." Marcus grips the edge of his desk, his knuckles white with strain. "Sarah, you need to understand something. The work you've been doing here belongs to the company. Your employment contract clearly states—" "Actually," I interrupt, my voice suddenly steel-wrapped in silk, "the patents cover work I did before I was hired. Work that predates my employment here by several months. Work that I can prove was entirely my own." The silence that follows is deafening. Marcus stares at me as if seeing me for the first time, which in a way he is. The naive employee he thought he could manipulate has been replaced by someone much more dangerous. "What do you want?" he asks finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I lean back in my chair, savoring the moment I've waited 2 lifetimes to experience. I want acknowledgement of my intellectual property rights. I want fair compensation for my work. And I want assurance that this company will respect my ownership going forward. Marcus's face cycles through rage, desperation, and calculation. Sarah, be reasonable. We can work something out. I'll make sure you're properly compensated, but you can't just what? My voice remains calm, but steel edges every word. Can't just protect my own work. Can't just demand credit for my own innovations. His phone rings again. Patricia Westbrook's name flashes on the caller ID. Marcus stares at it like it's a venomous snake. Answer it, I suggest gently. I'm sure she has questions. Marcus declines the call, but we both know he's only delaying the inevitable. This conversation isn't over, he says, his voice regaining some of its old authority. I'll have our legal team review everything. I'm sure we can resolve this misunderstanding. I stand slowly, smoothing my skirt with deliberate calm. I'm sure we can too. Oh, and Marcus, you might want to know that I've already been in touch with the investors. I'll be attending their emergency meeting this afternoon. The color drains from his face completely. What meeting? I smile, the expression feeling like sunlight after a long winter. The one where they decide whether to proceed with their investment or pursue alternative options. I walk to the door, then pause with my hand on the handle. See you there. As I close the door behind me, I hear the sound of something heavy hitting his desk, probably his head falling into his hands. The taste of victory is sweeter than I ever imagined. Phase 3 is complete. Now comes the endgame. The investor conference room feels different this time. The same expensive furniture, the same floor-to-ceiling windows, but the energy has shifted from celebration to crisis management. The scent of fresh flowers has been replaced by the sharp smell of stress and expensive coffee grown cold. I arrive with Miss Chen 30 minutes early, giving us time to arrange our materials and prepare for what promises to be the most satisfying meeting of my 2 lifetimes. The thick legal folders spread across the table like battle plans, each document a weapon in my arsenal. Remember, Miss Chen whispers as the investors begin filing in. Let them ask the questions. We're here to provide facts, not to gloat. But oh, how I want to gloat. Patricia Westbrook enters first, her silver hair perfectly styled despite the early hour, her expression grim. She's followed by the other investors, their faces ranging from confused to angry to calculating. The sound of expensive shoes on marble echoes through the room like a funeral march. Marcus arrives last, and I barely recognize him. His usually immaculate suit is wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his confident swagger replaced by the nervous gait of a man walking to his execution. The scent of his cologne can't quite mask the smell of desperation clinging to him like fog. Ladies and gentlemen, Patricia begins without preamble. We're here to address serious concerns about the intellectual property we discussed yesterday. Miss Chen, I believe you represent the party claiming ownership? Miss Chen stands with practiced grace. That's correct. My client, Miss Sarah Morrison, holds multiple patents on the core technologies presented in yesterday's demonstration. The words hang in the air like a verdict. I watch Marcus flinch as if physically struck. His hands tremble slightly as he grips the table edge. That's impossible, Marcus interjects, his voice cracking slightly. Sarah is my employee. Any work she's done belongs to the company under her employment contract. Miss Chen's smile is razor sharp. I'm afraid you're mistaken, Mr. Fletcher. The patents in question cover work performed before Miss Morrison's employment began. Work that she can document extensively. She opens the first folder and the sound of paper shuffling fills the tense silence. Patent application 16,847,392, filed March 20th, covers the fundamental neural network architecture. This application includes detailed code samples, research notes, and timestamps dating back to December of last year, 3 months before Miss Morrison joined your company. Marcus's face cycles through confusion, rage, and something approaching panic. That can't be right. The work she showed me was developed here, using company resources. Actually, I speak for the first time, my voice calm and clear. What I showed you was a modified version of my existing work. The core algorithms were already complete when I joined Nexus Technologies. Patricia leans forward, her sharp eyes fixed on me. Miss Morrison, are you saying that Mr. Fletcher knowingly presented your work as his own? The question hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. I can feel the texture of the leather chair beneath me, smooth and expensive, as I prepare to deliver the blow that will end Marcus's career. I'm saying that I shared my research with Mr. Fletcher in the course of my employment, believing he would help me develop it properly. I documented every conversation, every email, every meeting where we discussed my work. Miss Chen opens another folder. We have extensive documentation of Mr. Fletcher's knowledge of the true ownership. Here's an email from April 15th where he specifically references Sarah's algorithm in correspondence with the development team. She slides the printed email across the table. Marcus's signature is clearly visible at the bottom of a message that explicitly credits me with the breakthrough. I watch him read his own words, his face growing paler with each line. This proves nothing, Marcus stammers. Employees work collaboratively. Of course I would reference her contributions to the team effort. Here's another email, Miss Chen continues relentlessly, from May 3rd where you discuss leveraging Sarah's work for maximum market impact. And another from May 20th, referencing her proprietary approach to the semantic processing problem. The papers pile up like evidence at a murder trial. Marcus's own words, carefully preserved and cataloged, painting a picture of deliberate appropriation. Each document is another nail in his coffin. Mr. Harrison, the sharp-eyed younger investor, speaks up. Mr. Fletcher, these communications seem to indicate you were aware of Miss Morrison's ownership claims. Why didn't you disclose this in your presentation? Marcus opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. For the first time in his career, the master manipulator has no words. There's more, Miss Chen says, her voice carrying the weight of an executioner's axe. We have recordings of team meetings where Mr. Fletcher acknowledged the work's origins, time-stamped communications showing the evolution of the project, and technical documentation proving that Miss Morrison's algorithms predate her employment by months. She produces a tablet and connects it to the room's presentation system. The screen fills with my original research notes, dated and witnessed, showing the complete development process from conception to breakthrough. As you can see, I say, standing to point at the screen, the work Mr. Fletcher presented yesterday represents years of my personal research. The employment contract he's referencing only covers work performed during company time using company resources. This technology was fully developed before I ever set foot in his office. Patricia studies the documents with the intensity of a prosecutor examining murder weapons. Miss Morrison, what exactly are you proposing? This is the moment I've waited for, the crescendo of my carefully orchestrated revenge. I'm proposing a licensing agreement, I say, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Nexus Technologies can continue to use my algorithms under a fair royalty structure. Mr. Fletcher can proceed with his business plans, but the intellectual property ownership needs to be properly acknowledged. The texture of the presentation remote feels cool in my palm as I click to the next slide. My terms, already prepared and ready for negotiation. I'm seeking a 15% royalty on all revenue generated by implementations of my technology, plus immediate compensation for the unauthorized use that's already occurred. Marcus finally finds his voice. 15%? That's highway robbery. Sarah, you can't possibly expect... Actually, Patricia interrupts, her tone cutting through Marcus's protest like a blade. Given the circumstances, Miss Morrison's terms seem quite reasonable. The alternative would be a complete injunction against using the technology at all. The sound of papers rustling fills the silence as the investors review my proposal. I can smell the coffee growing cold in their cups, can hear the subtle sounds of traffic from the street below, can feel the weight of victory settling around my shoulders like a crown. There's one more thing, I add quietly. I have recordings of yesterday's presentation where Mr. Fletcher explicitly claimed ownership of my work. This constitutes deliberate misrepresentation to potential investors. Marcus's face goes ashen. He knows exactly what that means. Not just financial ruin, but potential criminal charges for fraud. Mr. Harrison looks up from his documents. Miss Morrison, assuming we move forward with a properly structured agreement, would you be interested in a direct partnership with our investment group? Your technology is remarkable regardless of the current complications. I feel a surge of triumph so intense it nearly takes my breath away. They're not just acknowledging my ownership, they're offering to cut Marcus out entirely. I would be very interested in exploring that possibility, I reply, meeting his gaze steadily. Patricia nods approvingly. Excellent. Miss Chen, can you prepare a formal licensing agreement for our review? And Mr. Fletcher? She turns her attention to Marcus, who looks like he's about to be sick. I think you and I need to have a very serious conversation about disclosure requirements and fiduciary responsibilities. The meeting continues for another hour, but the outcome is already decided. Marcus sits in stunned silence as his empire crumbles around him, listening to discussions about my technology, my patents, my future. As we prepare to leave, Patricia approaches me privately. Miss Morrison, I want you to know that we're very impressed with both your technical work and your business acumen. Would you be available for lunch tomorrow? I'd like to discuss some opportunities that might interest you. I shake her hand, savoring the respect in her grip. I'd be delighted. As we walk toward the elevator, I catch a glimpse of Marcus through the conference room glass. He's slumped in his chair, staring at the table where his dreams just died. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for him. Almost. The elevator doors close with a soft chime, carrying me away from the wreckage of his ambitions and toward a future brighter than anything I dared imagine in my previous life. Miss Chen grins at me as we descend. I have to say, Sarah, that was the most satisfying meeting of my career. How does it feel to watch a bully get exactly what he deserves? I lean against the elevator wall, finally allowing myself to truly smile. It feels like justice. But this is only the beginning. The executive boardroom at Nexus Technologies smells like fear and expensive wood polish. I sit at the far end of the conference table, my legal documents spread before me like a conquering general's battle plans. The morning light streams through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the faces of the board members who are about to decide Marcus's fate. The texture of the leather portfolio containing my licensing terms feels substantial under my fingertips. Inside are documents that will transform me from exploited employee to powerful partner, or destroy Nexus Technologies completely if they choose the wrong path. Board Chairman Robert Sinclair, a distinguished man in his 70s, calls the emergency meeting to order. His voice carries the weight of decades in corporate warfare. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to address the intellectual property crisis that has emerged regarding our AI development project. Marcus sits 3 seats away from me, his usual confidence replaced by the hollow-eyed stare of a man watching his world collapse. The expensive suit that once made him look powerful now hangs on him like a costume he's forgotten how to wear. The scent of his cologne has faded, replaced by the sharper smell of desperation. Mr. Fletcher, Sinclair continues, the legal department has reviewed the documentation provided by Miss Morrison's counsel. Their preliminary assessment is that her ownership claims appear valid and enforceable. Each word hits Marcus like a physical blow. I watch his hands tremble slightly as he grips his legal pad, the confident predator reduced to cornered prey. Sarah, Sinclair turns to me, we understand you're prepared to offer licensing terms that would allow the company to continue development of this technology. I stand slowly, letting the gravity of the moment settle around me like armor. That's correct, Mr. Sinclair. Despite the unfortunate circumstances that led us here, I believe we can find a mutually beneficial arrangement. The sound of papers rustling fills the silence as I distribute copies of my proposal. Each board member receives an identical folder containing terms that will make me wealthy beyond my wildest dreams while allowing Nexus to salvage their investment. I'm proposing a licensing agreement that grants Nexus exclusive rights to commercialize my AI technology in exchange for a 15% royalty on all gross revenue, plus a $5 million signing bonus to compensate for the unauthorized use that's already occurred. Board member Jennifer Walsh, the company's CFO, looks up from the documents with raised eyebrows. Miss Morrison, these terms would make you our highest compensated partner by a significant margin. I meet her gaze steadily. The technology would generate hundreds of millions in revenue over the next 5 years. 15% is a fair market rate for licensing breakthrough AI innovations. Marcus finally finds his voice, though it comes out strained and desperate. This is extortion. Sarah was my employee when she developed this work. The company invested in her research, provided resources. Actually, I interrupt, my voice cutting through his protest like a blade. The patents clearly show the work predates my employment here. Mr. Fletcher, you're welcome to review the timestamps and documentation Miss Chen provided. The boardroom falls silent, except for the subtle hum of the air conditioning system. I can feel the texture of the moment, heavy with consequence and barely contained power dynamics. Sinclair leans forward. Miss Morrison, help us understand the alternative. What happens if we don't accept your licensing terms? This is the question I've been waiting for, the moment to reveal the full scope of my leverage. I've received interest from 3 of your primary competitors, I say, allowing a small smile to play across my lips. Technovate Industries has already made a preliminary offer for exclusive rights. Dataflow Dynamics is scheduling a presentation next week, and Quantum Systems. I pause for effect. Let's just say they're very motivated to gain a competitive advantage in the AI space. The color drains from several faces around the table. In the tech industry, exclusive access to breakthrough AI technology isn't just valuable, it's existential. Whichever company controls my algorithms will dominate the market for the next decade. Marcus slumps further in his chair, finally understanding the true scope of his predicament. He hasn't just lost my technology. He's potentially handed his biggest competitors the weapons to destroy him. Of course, I continue. I'd prefer to work with Nexus. And this company has been my professional home, and I believe we can build something extraordinary together. But I need partners who respect intellectual property rights and honor their commitments. The phrase hangs in the air like a challenge. Everyone in the room knows I'm talking about Marcus, but I'm careful not to make it personal. This is business now, not revenge. Though the satisfaction feels remarkably similar. Walsh pulls out her calculator and begins running numbers. 15% of our projected revenue would be substantial, but losing this technology entirely would be catastrophic. There's another consideration, adds board member David Park, the head of corporate development. If Miss Morrison's patents are as comprehensive as they appear, any company that licenses this technology will have significant barriers to entry against competitors. The first mover advantage could be worth billions. I nod appreciatively. Mr. Park raises an excellent point. The patents cover not just the current implementation, but the underlying methodologies that make this level of AI performance possible. Any company attempting to develop similar technology would face significant legal challenges. Marcus makes one last desperate play. Sarah, you're making a mistake. These people don't understand the technical complexities like I do. You need someone with deep AI experience to properly commercialize this work. The silence that follows his outburst is deafening. Several board members exchange glances that make it clear Marcus's fate was decided before he opened his mouth. Actually, I reply calmly, I'll be maintaining direct oversight of all technical implementation under the licensing agreement. The technology requires specific expertise to deploy correctly. Sinclair studies my proposal intently, then looks around the table. I'm inclined to accept Miss Morrison's terms. The alternative scenarios are unacceptable for the company's future. One by one, the board members nod their agreement. Marcus sits frozen, watching his empire transfer to the employee he thought he could exploit and discard. There is one additional matter, Sinclair continues, his voice taking on a formal tone. The board has reviewed Mr. Fletcher's handling of this situation and concluded that immediate changes in leadership are necessary. The texture of vindication feels like silk against my skin. Not only am I about to become wealthy beyond my dreams, but I'm watching the man who stole my life face the consequences of his actions. Mr. Fletcher, Sinclair says, the board is accepting your resignation, effective immediately. Marcus's face goes through a kaleidoscope of emotions, shock, rage, disbelief, and finally, a hollow acceptance of his fate. The predator has become the prey, and the hunt is over. The board also unanimously approves Miss Morrison's licensing proposal, Sinclair concludes. Miss Morrison, welcome to your new partnership with Nexus Technologies. As the meeting adjourns and hands are shaken, I catch Marcus staring at me with something approaching awe. He finally understands what happened. Not just that he lost, but that he never had a chance to win. I've been playing chess while he was playing checkers. The sound of my heels clicking on the marble floor echoes through the hallway as I leave the boardroom, no longer an employee, but a partner. Behind me, Marcus gathers his things for the last time. His career ended by the same hubris that defined it. Justice tastes sweeter than I ever imagined. Marcus's desperation smells like stale coffee and broken dreams. 3 days after his termination, he appears at the Nexus offices like a ghost haunting the scene of his downfall. Security escorts him to a small conference room where I'm waiting with Miss Chen and two other attorneys I've hired to handle what promises to be his final gambit. "Sarah," he begins, his voice hoarse from what I imagine have been sleepless nights. "We need to talk. This has gone too far." The texture of the conference table's wood grain feels smooth under my palms as I lean forward, studying the man who once held my professional life in his hands. His expensive suit is wrinkled, his usually perfect hair unkempt, his confident swagger replaced by the desperate energy of a drowning man grasping for anything that might save him. "I'm listening, Marcus," I say calmly. "Though I should mention that everything you say here is being recorded for legal purposes." His eyes dart to the small recording device on the table, and I watch him calculate whether to proceed. The scent of his cologne, once so overpowering and aggressive, now seems faded, as if even his signature scent has lost its potency. "You're making a mistake," he says finally. "These patents you're claiming, they're based on work you did using company resources. Company computers, company research databases, company time. Legally, that makes them property of Nexus Technologies." Miss Chen's pen scratches against her legal pad as she takes notes. The sound reminds me of a countdown timer, marking the seconds until Marcus's final defeat. "That's an interesting theory," I reply. "Unfortunately for you, the timestamps on my development work predate my employment here by several months. I can prove every algorithm was developed on my personal equipment during my own time, using my own resources." Marcus leans forward, his desperation making him bold. "But you improved them here. You refined the code, enhanced the performance, added new features. Those improvements belong to the company." It's actually a clever argument, if he had any evidence to support it. But I've been preparing for this moment since the day I was reborn. "You're referring to the modified versions I shared with you during our meetings," I say, opening my laptop and connecting it to the conference room display. "Let me show you something interesting about those improvements." The screen fills with code comparisons, my original algorithms alongside the versions I'd shown Marcus. To a casual observer, the modified versions look more sophisticated, more complete. But to an expert eye, they're obviously neutered. These aren't improvements, Marcus. They're deliberate degradations. I simplified the core functions, introduced performance bottlenecks, and removed key optimization routines. The versions you have access to are actually significantly worse than my original work. I watch understanding dawn on his face like a sunrise over a graveyard. He's been trying to steal a deliberately broken version of my technology. That's sabotage," he stammers. "You deliberately gave the company inferior code while keeping the real work for yourself." "I gave the company exactly what it paid for," I correct him. "My employment contract specified development of new AI technologies. It said nothing about surrendering intellectual property I created before my employment began." Miss Chen slides another document across the table. "Mr. Fletcher, perhaps you'd like to review the employment law precedents regarding prior art and pre-existing intellectual property. The case law is quite clear." Marcus's hands shake as he scans the legal citations. Each case cited establishes the same principle. Employees retain ownership of intellectual property developed before their employment, even if they later improve or modify that work using company resources. Furthermore, I continue, I have extensive documentation proving the development timeline of my original algorithms. Research notes, code repositories, even emails with academic colleagues discussing the theoretical foundations, all dated months before I joined Nexus. I produce a thick folder containing printed emails, handwritten research notes, and time-stamped code commits. The weight of evidence feels substantial in my hands, each document another chain binding Marcus to his fate. "This is impossible," Marcus says, but his voice lacks conviction. "You can't have been working on this technology that long without anyone knowing." "Actually, I can." I open another folder, this one containing academic papers and conference presentations. I presented preliminary versions of this work at 3 different AI conferences last year. Dr. Elizabeth Hartman from MIT was particularly interested in my approach to semantic processing. I slide a printed email across the table. Here's her response to my presentation, dated 8 months before I joined Nexus. She specifically references the novel neural architecture that forms the core of my patent applications. Marcus stares at the email as if it's written in a foreign language. His last hope of challenging my ownership has just evaporated before his eyes. There's something else you should know, I add, my voice taking on the tone of a prosecutor delivering a closing argument. I've been in contact with the investors you misled. They're very interested in pursuing fraud charges against you personally. The color drains from Marcus's face completely. Fraud? Sarah, I never intended to deceive anyone. I genuinely believed. You genuinely believed you could steal my work and get away with it, I interrupt. The recordings from your investor presentation are quite clear. You claimed explicit ownership of technology you knew belonged to me. Ms. Chen produces a transcript of Marcus's presentation, with his ownership claims highlighted in yellow. These statements constitute deliberate misrepresentation of material facts to potential investors. The legal term for that is securities fraud. Marcus slumps in his chair, the fight finally going out of him. The texture of defeat is written across his face in deep lines and hollow eyes. What do you want from me, Sarah? He asks quietly. You've already destroyed my career, taken my technology, ruined my reputation. What more could you possibly want? I lean back in my chair, savoring the moment of his complete capitulation. I want you to understand what you did to me. In my original timeline, you stole my life's work and left me with nothing. You took credit for my brilliance, profited from my innovation, and discarded me like garbage. His confusion is evident. Original timeline? Sarah, what are you talking about? I smile, knowing he'll never understand the true scope of what he's lost. Let's just say I learned from my mistakes. This time, I was ready for you. The meeting concludes with Marcus signing a comprehensive settlement agreement that prohibits him from making any further claims to my intellectual property. In exchange, I agree not to pursue criminal fraud charges, a mercy he doesn't deserve, but one that serves my purposes better than revenge. As security escorts him from the building for the final time, Marcus turns back to look at me through the conference room glass. In his eyes, I see the same hollow desperation I felt in my previous life when he destroyed my future. The difference is this time justice has been served. The champagne bubbles tickle my nose as I toast my victory in the executive suite that once belonged to Marcus. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawls below me like a kingdom I've just conquered. The sound of my heels clicking on the marble floor echoes with the authority of someone who has transformed from victim to victor in the span of 6 months. To Sarah Morrison, Patricia Westbrook raises her glass, her smile genuine and warm. The most impressive entrepreneur I've had the pleasure of partnering with. The texture of success feels like silk against my skin as I accept congratulations from the investor group that originally came to fund Marcus's theft. Now they're funding my empire instead, and the irony tastes sweeter than the expensive wine they've brought to celebrate. My new company, Morrison AI Technologies, officially launched this morning with $50 million in Series A funding. The same $50 million that was supposed to make Marcus wealthy is now mine, along with the respect, recognition, and power that should have been mine from the beginning. The market response has been extraordinary. David Park, now serving as my chief operating officer, reports with obvious excitement. We have 12 Fortune 500 companies requesting demonstrations and 3 government contracts under preliminary review. I nod, watching the numbers scroll across my laptop screen. Revenue projections that climb toward hundreds of millions, licensing deals that span continents, partnerships that will reshape entire industries. My algorithms, protected by ironclad patents and backed by unlimited legal resources, are about to change the world, and I own every bit of it. The scent of fresh flowers from the elaborate arrangements fills my new office, a space that's twice the size of Marcus's old domain. I've had it redesigned to reflect my personality rather than his. Warm woods instead of cold metal, natural light instead of harsh fluorescence. Art that inspires rather than intimidates. Miss Chen enters carrying a leather portfolio that practically glows with satisfaction. Sarah, I have wonderful news. The final patent approvals came through this morning. You now hold exclusive rights to 17 different AI technologies covering everything from natural language processing to predictive analytics. 17 patents, each one a fortress protecting my intellectual property, each one a weapon against anyone who might try to steal my work again. The legal protection I lacked in my previous life now surrounds me like armor. There's something else, Miss Chen continues, her smile taking on a predatory edge. Marcus Fletcher has filed for personal bankruptcy. Apparently, the legal fees from fighting our claims, combined with his termination settlement, have left him financially devastated. I should feel sorry for him. I should be magnanimous in victory, gracious toward a fallen enemy. Instead, I feel only the cold satisfaction of perfect justice. He destroyed my life once. Now he gets to experience the same devastation firsthand. My assistant knocks on the doorframe. Miss Morrison, there's someone here to see you. He says it's personal. I glance at my calendar, which shows no appointments for the next hour. Send him in. The door opens and my breath catches in my throat. Marcus stands in the doorway, but he's barely recognizable as the confident predator who once stole my dreams. His expensive suits have been replaced by off-the-rack clothing that hangs awkwardly on his diminished frame. His perfectly styled hair is now unkempt, his confident posture replaced by the slumped shoulders of complete defeat. The scent of his once overpowering cologne is entirely absent, replaced by the subtle smell of desperation that clings to the truly desperate. Sarah, he says quietly, thank you for seeing me. I gesture to the chair across from my desk, the same chair where I once sat as his subordinate, listening to his lies about partnership and shared success. Now he sits where I once sat, reduced to begging for scraps from the woman he tried to destroy. What can I do for you, Marcus? I ask, my voice professionally neutral despite the symphony of vindication playing in my chest. He looks around my office, taking in the awards already adorning the walls, the photos of me with industry leaders, the evidence of success that should have been his if he'd chosen partnership over theft. I came to apologize, he says finally, and to ask if you might consider if there might be a position here for someone with my experience. The words hang in the air like a confession. Marcus Fletcher, the man who once held my professional fate in his hands, is asking me for a job. The role reversal is so complete, so perfect, that I have to bite my lip to keep from smiling. What kind of position did you have in mind? I ask, leaning back in my executive chair. Anything, he says, and the desperation in his voice is unmistakable. Business development, client relations, even junior development work. I know the industry, I understand the technology, and He swallows hard. I need work, Sarah. I need a chance to rebuild. I study his face, seeing the genuine humility that defeat has taught him. In my previous life, he was a predator who devoured my future without a second thought. In this life, he's been reduced to prey, begging for mercy from the woman he tried to destroy. The texture of absolute power feels intoxicating under my fingertips as I consider his request. I could refuse him entirely, let him sink into complete obscurity. I could humiliate him further, make him grovel for a position beneath his former interns, or I could do something that serves my purposes even better. I might have something, I say slowly, junior developer position, entry-level salary, strict oversight, and a probationary period. You'd be working under the supervision of our development team, implementing specifications designed by others. I pause, letting the implications sink in. Including specifications based on algorithms you once tried to steal. Marcus's face cycles through relief, gratitude, and the bitter irony of his situation. He'll be working with my technology again, but this time as my employee, implementing my vision, building my empire from the ground up. I accept, he says without hesitation, whatever terms you think are fair. I open my desk drawer and pull out a standard employment contract, already prepared because I knew this moment would come. The sound of papers rustling fills the silence as I slide the document across my desk. Standard employment terms, I explain. $40,000 annually, basic benefits, 2 weeks vacation. All work product belongs exclusively to Morrison AI Technologies, and Marcus, I look him directly in the eyes. Everything you create here will have my name on it, not yours. He signs without reading the contract, his signature a final admission of defeat. The man who once stole my identity as an innovator is now contractually bound to build my reputation with his labor. As he prepares to leave, I stop him with one final observation. Marcus, in my experience, success isn't about taking credit for other people's work. It's about creating something valuable and protecting it properly. He nods, understanding the lesson he's learned too late. I know that now, Sarah. Thank you for this opportunity. After he leaves, I turn back to my computer and the stream of congratulatory emails filling my inbox. Partnership offers from tech giants, speaking invitations from industry conferences, interview requests from business magazines wanting to profile the overnight sensation who revolutionized AI technology. They don't know about my previous life, about the theft and betrayal that led to my death. They only see the brilliant entrepreneur who emerged from nowhere to build an empire in record time. The afternoon sun streams through my windows, warming my face as I review the contracts that will make me one of the most powerful people in the tech industry. My algorithms will soon power everything from autonomous vehicles to medical diagnostics, generating revenue that will make me wealthy beyond imagination. But more than wealth, I have something Marcus could never understand: the satisfaction of perfect justice. In my first life, he stole my work and left me to die forgotten and broke. In this life, he's my employee, building my success with his own hands. The taste of victory is sweeter than any champagne, more intoxicating than any wine. I've not just survived my rebirth, I've used it to create a future that exceeds my wildest dreams. Tomorrow, Marcus will report to work as my subordinate. Next week, my technology will begin transforming industries worldwide. Next month, I'll be featured on the cover of Forbes as one of the most influential entrepreneurs of my generation. And through it all, I'll remember the night I died in a car crash, betrayed and forgotten, and how I used that betrayal to fuel the most spectacular comeback in business history. Some people get second chances, and I got second life, and I made it count. 1 year later, the scent of expensive champagne mingles with the sound of rain against the floor-to-ceiling windows of my corner office. The same building where I once toiled in a cramped cubicle now bears my name on the directory, and the penthouse suite that houses Morrison AI Technologies feels like a throne room from which I survey my conquered empire. The texture of the Forbes magazine cover feels substantial in my hands, my face smiling confidently beside the headline, "The AI Revolution: How Sarah Morrison Changed Everything." The article inside details my meteoric rise from unknown developer to industry titan, painting me as an overnight sensation who came from nowhere to reshape the future of artificial intelligence. If only they knew the truth about my journey. My assistant's voice crackles through the intercom. "Miss Morrison, Mr. Fletcher is here for your annual review meeting." I smile, setting down the magazine and smoothing my designer dress. "Send him in." The door opens, and Marcus enters with the careful posture of a man who has learned his place in the world's new order. His off-the-rack suit has been replaced with something slightly better. My generous performance bonuses have allowed him to upgrade his wardrobe, though it still pales compared to his former glory days. "Good afternoon, Sarah," he says respectfully, carrying a tablet containing his annual performance report. "Thank you for making time for this review." I gesture to the chair across from my desk, the same chair where he once plotted to steal my future, now the seat where he reports on his contributions to my empire. The irony never gets old. "Please sit," I say warmly. "I've been looking forward to discussing your progress." Marcus has turned out to be an excellent employee, much to my surprise and his credit. Stripped of his ego and forced to focus on actual work rather than office politics, he's demonstrated genuine technical skills and a work ethic I never suspected he possessed. "Your performance metrics are impressive," I continue, reviewing his development statistics on my screen. "The client feedback on your implementations has been consistently positive, and your code quality scores are in the top 10% of the development team." He nods, a mixture of pride and humility crossing his features. I appreciate the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the company's success. The words carry no trace of his former arrogance. 12 months of working as my subordinate have taught him lessons that a lifetime of corporate climbing never could. He's learned the difference between claiming credit and earning it, between stealing innovation and creating it. There's something I want to discuss with you, I say, leaning forward with what I hope looks like genuine consideration. The board has approved a new senior developer position, and I think you might be a good candidate. Marcus's eyes widen with surprise and something approaching hope. Sarah, I don't know what to say. After everything that happened, I never expected. You've earned it, I interrupt, and I mean it. Your work this year has been exemplary. You've demonstrated growth, humility, and genuine technical expertise. The position comes with a significant salary increase and stock options in the company. Stock options in Morrison AI Technologies, the same company built on the intellectual property he once tried to steal. The same algorithms he attempted to claim as his own will now generate wealth for him, but only as my employee, only under my terms, only with my name attached to every breakthrough. I accept, he says quickly, as if afraid I might change my mind. Thank you for believing in me. The taste of perfect justice lingers on my tongue like fine wine. Marcus will never know that this promotion is the final act in my elaborate revenge. He'll spend the rest of his career building wealth from my innovations, creating success from my brilliance, but always as my subordinate, always in my shadow. There's one more thing, I add, opening my desk drawer to retrieve a document I've been saving for this moment. I want you to see something. I slide a printed photograph across the desk, a picture from the night of my death in my previous timeline. Marcus and his colleagues celebrating at an expensive restaurant, toasting their success with champagne while I lay dying on a rain-soaked highway. He studies the image with confusion. I don't understand, he says. Where did you get this? When was it taken? I lean back in my chair, savoring the moment I've waited 2 lifetimes to experience. That's from a timeline that no longer exists, Marcus. A future where you succeeded in stealing my work, where you celebrated your theft while I paid the ultimate price for trusting you. His confusion deepens, but I can see understanding beginning to dawn in his eyes. The pieces of an impossible puzzle starting to form a picture that defies logic but explains everything. You see, I continue, my voice taking on the tone of someone revealing a cosmic truth. I died that night, killed in a car accident after discovering your betrayal. But somehow, some way, I was given a second chance. I was reborn 6 months before your theft, with full knowledge of what you plan to do. Marcus stares at the photograph, then at me, his mouth opening and closing silently. Every choice you made this time was the same as before, I explain. Every manipulation, every lie, every step in your plan to steal my work. The only difference was that this time, I was ready for you. This time, I had already won before you even knew the game had begun. The color drains from his face as the full scope of his situation becomes clear. He hasn't just been defeated by a clever employee. He's been systematically destroyed by someone who knew his every move before he made it. That's impossible, he whispers. Is it? I ask, gesturing around my office filled with awards, achievements, and evidence of the empire I've built on the ruins of his ambitions. Look around you, Marcus. I've achieved everything you dreamed of and more. I own the technology you tried to steal. I command the respect you craved. I wield the power you thought you deserved. I stand and walk to the window, looking out over the city that now knows my name instead of his. You taught me something valuable in that other life, something I've never forgotten. You taught me that in this world, the only person you can truly trust to protect your interests is yourself. Marcus remains frozen in his chair, staring at the photograph that documents a celebration that happened in a timeline that no longer exists. But here's what you never understood, I continue, turning back to face him. True power doesn't come from taking what others have built. It comes from creating something so valuable, so irreplaceable that others have no choice but to acknowledge your worth. The rain continues pattering against the windows, the same rhythm that accompanied my death in that other life. But this time, the sound brings comfort rather than despair. This time, I'm the one in control. So yes, Marcus, I'll give you that promotion. I'll help you rebuild your career and restore your reputation. Not because I've forgiven you, I haven't, but because watching you succeed as my employee, building wealth from my innovations, Creating a future based on my vision is the most perfect revenge I could possibly imagine. I return to my desk and sign the promotion paperwork with a flourish. Welcome to your new position, Senior Developer Fletcher. I'm sure you'll do excellent work implementing my next breakthrough algorithm. As Marcus leaves my office, promotion letter in hand, I turn back to the Forbes magazine featuring my success story. The woman on the cover smiles, with the confidence of someone who has not just overcome betrayal but transformed it into triumph. My phone buzzes with a message from my assistant. Time for your keynote speech at the AI Innovation Summit. The car is waiting downstairs. I gather my materials for the presentation that will introduce my latest breakthrough to the world. Another algorithm that will revolutionize machine learning, another innovation that will cement my position as the defining voice of the AI revolution. As I prepare to leave for the summit, where I'll be celebrated as a visionary leader, I take one last look at the rain-streaked windows. Somewhere in a parallel timeline that no longer matters, Marcus Fletcher celebrated stealing my work while I died forgotten and alone. In this timeline, I'm the one changing the world while he builds my legacy, one line of code at a time. The elevator carries me down from my penthouse office toward the car that will take me to my moment of triumph. But as the floors tick by, I realize this isn't really about Marcus anymore. It stopped being about him the moment I chose creation over revenge, innovation over retribution. I didn't just survive my rebirth, I transcended it, and in doing so, I became exactly who I was always meant to be. Not just a brilliant scientist, but a force of nature that shapes the future rather than merely reacting to it. The taste of victory is sweeter than I ever imagined, but the taste of purpose is sweeter still. The lobby doors slide open with a whisper, revealing the sleek black sedan waiting to carry me toward my destiny. As I settle into the leather seats, I catch my reflection in the window. No longer the naive employee who trusted too easily, no longer the victim who died forgotten and betrayed. I am Sarah Morrison, creator of the future, architect of tomorrow's world, and this is only the beginning.